hello and welcome to NETSOL's Transcend AI Labs podcast. This is our inaugural podcast, so very excited to have two esteemed guests with us today. We have Naeem Ghauri, our president and co-founder of NETSOL, and our chief strategy officer, Faizaan Ghauri. So welcome to the podcast and welcome to Austin. Today we're going to be talking a bit about AI and NETSOL's application of AI, as well as some of the trends within the market. And so with that, I want to quickly open up with you guys and just welcome you to Austin and let you say some words.
Thank you, Erik. You couldn't have chosen a better venue than Austin for your, debut podcast. It's great to be here and really happy we have an office here. I got to meet all of our colleagues yesterday. Just Austin is a very vibrant location for talent. And it's becoming a bit of an IT hub now, apparently. And it's like a mini Silicon Valley. And the weather is great. Yeah, the weather is amazing. And almost like spring is here. So nice to be here.
Wonderful.
Great to be here, Erik. So Faizaan Ghauri, so Chief Strategy Officer. So my background has been on the innovation side. Naeem has been my mentor along that journey. So we've done some interesting work together. We were doing cloud and SaaS before it became a big thing. Worked on digital twins. And then, of course, today's discussion, we're going to talk about AI today. So looking forward to it.
Great. Welcome. So there's been a lot of discussion around AI first. What does that mean from your perspective?
Okay, so I think our company has been pioneering several different iterations of tech over the years. So if I recount from 27, 8 years ago, we always try to stay ahead of the curve where tech is concerned, tech stacks are concerned, the trends, the technology pivots, and so on. So really, AI first is another, but yet a very important iteration and a little bit more revolutionary than some of the evolutionary stuff we've done in the past. But AI first came in to the company when we became API first. So we had set up ourselves for API first. That was becoming very important for our clients and for our platforms. And that really the next big, if you like, transformation for us was to look at the company and see how we are positioned in this era of AI and how we continue to innovate at the speed of light, literally, in what's happening around us. So we are literally now an AI first company, because not as much as like, is everything running around AI? Not yet, but the mindset and the thinking and the planning and the strategy around any part of our innovation is got AI in it, right, left and center.
Yeah.
So this is why we believe we are actually becoming an AI first company.
Well, tell me a little bit more about that journey as well. Like you mentioned, we're becoming an AI first. When did that start? When was the initiative kind of taken on to really start to invest heavily into AI and really build that capability out in-house?
I think it's an interesting journey and a great question, because we actually don't see ourselves as a company that rides the kind of a trend wave.
Sure.
Right. So we had a very well thought out roadmap on how we're going to, at every different juncture, innovate. So if you look at where AI comes in at the front now, it started about 3 years ago when we launched Unity. Now with Unity became our core innovation engine. What we did was to create an entity within the company that job in life is nothing but to innovate and investigate into emerging tech stacks and build the best of products using all the cutting edge frontier type of technologies.
Sure.
And experiment and ideation internally in the company, creating POCs, and some of those POCs we just take out to the clients. Some would work, some would not work. So Unity started its work about 3 years ago, and the biggest, if you like, milestone was when we delivered our autos, or the digital retail now, as we call it, solution to Mini and BMW in the USA. That was a major breakthrough, if you like, from our previous iteration of a .NET, SOA kind of service-oriented architecture. If you remember those days when SOA was quite big and central, and then cloud came, and DevOps and all these horizontal pieces came in. So we, from where our previous tech stack was, to then move to a full stack architecture, and to now go into microservices and component-based modular development, and then putting them all together through an API first layer, and using DevOps and Agile and all the horizontal bits which we had to learn and literally infiltrate into the organization through Unity first, which was kind of a standalone initially. When we started to become successful and started to put products out, we then made the move to, was like a little bit like a Trojan horse, that we then put that into the organization, the entire organization. So we started with Unity with about 70, 80 people, R&D, and then those people started going into the mainstream development as well.
Sure.
So Unity gave us the foundation, if you like, of the new disciplines of how you build technology and platforms and solutions in that world of full stack development and using microservices. It was quite a big departure and move from your service-oriented architecture, which was still, I wouldn't call it monolithic, but I would say was, it's a different way to modularize software development, engineering, and architecting. So this was for us a major, major change when we moved to Unity. And then that gave us the foundation to build our AI solutions. So it was an easier journey when we had already started building products on a full stack architecture, and as well as all the components that go with it, microservices and cloud native, and so on. So we are now completely ready to build a full, if you like, series of products in AI,
Sure.
and then some of them already out in the market.
Awesome.
Ultimately, this whole mission that really started in the pandemic is all about giving customers flexibility. That was really the forcing function of it. We saw in the pandemic, as we were talking to CIOs, talking to CEOs of various asset finance companies, they were looking for flexibility when it came to infrastructure. They were looking for flexibility when it came to front-end experiences. They were looking for flexibility in terms of pricing and subscription models as well. So ultimately, Unity, which we now call the Transcend Marketplace and Transcend Retail, what we did was we took our legacy system known as Ascent or Transcend Finance, and we looked at how we could basically disaggregate the various pieces of functionalities that there. I mean, if you look at that system, it's got thousands of different screens, a lot of functionality.
Yeah.
So we sort of broke those down into microservices so that customers can, pick and choose and configure what kind of tools they needed to actually deliver on the front end.
Sure. Great. So it sounds like it's been a long journey so far, which is amazing to hear. I'm curious, how about upskilling and training staff? Obviously, AI has kind of hit us fast over the last couple of years, right? With the introduction of, OpenAI, their ChatGPT, and all the other, various generative AI models. How have we started to get that motion and get the team trained to start to utilize AI more effectively?
So it's quite an important a milestone, which we hit around July of last year when we had an offsite in Thailand. We had all the key stakeholders there. And there was a lot of chatter on AI and a lot of interest, curiosity, and some stress over it as well, that are we ready?
Sure.
And I think in that was for me quite a big inflection point in taking all of those thoughts and emotions and concerns, or all the positivity and the negativity that went with it, into something which we can do as a program of development of upskilling, or a program of upskilling our all of our colleagues in basic AI literacy. So for us, it was really important that everybody understands the very basics of what AI means, because even if they are not working within engineering and development, but AI will touch them
Yeah.
in some shape or form in their day-to-day lives, whether it's work or home. So we introduced quite a unique program, which was our AI Literacy 101, which across the organization, everybody was asked to attend an internal online course of AI 101. So everybody had to participate. And then we went to the more advanced kind of mid-level complexity of AI. And then we are now doing much more advanced training
Yeah.
for key people in engineering and R&D. So that was the first thing we did. And that kind of also infiltrated across the organization. We also encourage people to do things on their own. And we ask people to go research what are the relevant education and courses they could do to impact on their jobs in a positive way. So for us, the message was, when we introduce AI, it is not going to be about just cutting headcount. It is going to be about, first of all, equipping with the skills, and then leave it to you and your own, if you like, motivation on how you use those skills in your day job, and how you apply those, if you like, all the education that you're getting from third-party sources or internally, you bring them to work with you, and then you share that knowledge with colleagues, and maybe just try and apply those. So that was more voluntary.
Yeah.
And then the next step was more like, okay, now we're going to do things this way. So when we started doing that, we knew that people had the basic knowledge by then.
Sure.
And they knew if they want to stay relevant in their careers and in their own growth, they have no choice. There's absolutely no choice but to upskill themselves. Because it's like us, because we get, if we didn't learn how to use, our mobile phones when iPhone came, if we were left behind, we're still using the Nokias of the world, we will obviously get left behind. We won't be able to do all the things we can do on a mobile phone now. So I'm just giving you a very, very kind of a basic analogy to how people upskill themselves when there is a need to do it. And I think if your career depends on it, but you have no choice but to upskill yourself.
Yeah, it's a forcing function. I can say that a daily conversation that happens with management and the team is looking at any task and looking at how we can use AI in that task.
That's
And
great.
usually, because the management is so up to speed on the latest tools and trends there, we're making suggestions all the time on it. And it's giving us infinite leverage, honestly. Other area I just want to highlight for us when it comes to training and upskill is the real capabilities that we have in our Center for Excellence in Pakistan. That is a delivery center for us that's been there for nearly 3 decades now. And a lot of the innovations that we've been able to diffuse around the world has come from Pakistan. Now, what do you have there? You have a large talent pool. About 70% of the population is under 30. Nearly 250 million plus people in the country. And NETSOL is really, in some sense, like the Google of Pakistan in terms of how it can hire talent. Just recently, we hosted an AI hackathon and had thousands of candidates apply from all over the country. And they had about 48 hours to actually build AI-centric use cases. It was incredible what they could really do in just those 48 hours. We've hosted hackathons in the past, nearly like 8 years ago. And if you just compare what you could do 8 years to what you could do in now using these AI tools, intelligent IDEs like Cursor, using ChatGPT, using all these tools, you are able to literally within 2 days, these teams were able to deliver fully featured products using AI.
It's amazing.
5, 6 features all developed within the span of 48 hours. So you have so much more leverage now. And I think the youth and the development organizations that we've been establishing there, they're on the ball. They know how things are moving quickly, and it's making them have 10x, 100x more leverage than they had before.
That's awesome.
And just to add to that, what really was surprising and unpleasant to see happening in our own organization, as much as a hackathon internally in the company, some of the engineers who would never work in these tech stacks, they kind of sort of started emerging when we took internal tests on their knowledge in AI. They've been self-teaching themselves over time, and they're quietly doing it in their own time. And so we were able to, the first batch of our AI engineers and data scientists came all internally from people we had no idea had learned so much on their own. So in fact, so even today, the team that we have, literally only like 3 or 4 people we hired externally. Rest of all come from within the company.
That's amazing. Tell me a little bit more about some of the macro trends that we're seeing within AI, and how do you think that those are going to be applied within NETSOL in our future product innovation and execution?
I think as a company, we first have to understand the space that we're in, and we have to be very laser focused on when we talk about AI, that we first see what value we can create within our own space and the clients that we service all over the world. So our job in life is to, whatever the tech iteration is, that how to utilize that tech to benefit our clients. And then by default, when you do that, you upskill your people, because if we're going to deliver the frontier technologies and the cutting edge stuff, you have to obviously make sure your people are ready for it. So if you look at the macro picture, our first task is to make sure everything we develop is relevant to what our clients want, what our industry wants. And our space is very complex. It's a space where there's literally 4 or 5 major companies globally who service it. And so our entire focus is on creating products which are value add, make our customers more efficient. The quality of what we deliver to them is the highest, at the highest level. And the cost of how we develop, the time in which we develop, is becoming shorter and shorter now with all the tools we have at our disposal. Mm-hmm. So we look at AI as a great enabler, right? And it's something that if our clients started to implement with what we give them, it gets them so far ahead of their own competition that it has to be catch up after that. So the first initiative is to build products, and at the same time, in parallel, we are going horizontal across the organization in applying AI to what we do, from our HR to our admin, to our accounts, to our software engineering, and how we develop software. If we cannot efficiently deploy AI and become a better organization ourselves, we cannot really help our clients. So the first thing is to get it right for ourselves, and that we are then able to, build products and platforms which are going to then change and transform our clients. And they can also say that we are really ahead of the curve against their own competition.
So just to look at overview of the market, one thing Naeem and I discuss a lot is just looking at the overall ecosystem,
Sure.
right? So you have the infrastructure layer,
Mm-hmm.
which is driven by NVIDIA today, as they're the major provider of GPUs, and of course TSMC plays a big role in that. You have the LLMs, which we all know and love, the frontier models coming from the likes of OpenAI, Anthropic, Grok, open source models like Llama or DeepSeek also
Mm-hmm.
coming out. Then there's the algorithm layer, and this is a lot of the sort of where you see a lot of the PhDs come in that help with defining these algorithms and weights specific for certain use cases. And then on top of that is really the apps layer. And so you had to sort of look at the ecosystem as it is. But if you've been involved in other technological waves, you can see where things are going to play out.
Yeah.
Like I was just looking at yesterday. Do you know what the most valuable company by market cap was about 20 years ago?
Microsoft? I don't know.
Nokia, maybe.
Cisco.
Yes,
Cisco.
Right?
Wow.
not far off. Yeah.
So what you see is that initially when these new tech waves start, it is the infrastructure layer
Sure.
that benefits, but you fast forward, a few decades later, and of course it's the app layer, it's the app companies that end up becoming the biggest companies by market cap. So we're going to see that play out again with artificial intelligence, and it's going to happen at a more accelerated pace. I mean, you look at these other waves like cloud as an example, the pace of innovation and speed at which things are moving is just incredible. I mean, you take the LLM layer as an example, the frontier models cost 20 times less than they did just a year ago today. So we're going to see this acceleration and pace just happening a lot quicker. And I think a lot of our focus at NETSOL is, ultimately going to be on that apps layer.
Absolutely. And I totally believe in what Faizaan is saying. The thing that is great for companies like us is that, all of these other players out there who are helping build infrastructure, data centers, the chips, and the algorithms and the compute and the, if you like, the inference and so on. So all of these guys are making life easier for us and cheaper for us to build application software. And so as you rightly said, that ultimately, if you look at the top 5 market cap companies, there's only one infrastructure player, and there's NVIDIA, right? The rest are all, end user products and services, not infrastructure related, right? So this is where this thing is going to go, because in terms of chips, they are the, if you like, a substitute for what Cisco was in terms of providing routers and the networking equipment that needed to us to establish the internet in the first place in the late 90s and early 2000s. So right now, NVIDIA is very relevant, very important, but it's already proven by these emerging players like DeepSeek is that, what do you really need? Do you need more compute or do you need more engineering, right? And we're seeing that at the moment, compute is winning the dollars and the billions of dollars and the hundreds of billions that are going in. But ultimately, there will be another 100 DeepSeeks coming out with open source. And I think this is what I'm excited about, that we don't have to worry about investing in compute. Okay, we don't have to worry about building a data center in NETSOL and buy all these GPUs. So we need to just become better engineers on how to utilize all of the tech stack and leverage all the tools that are available, which also we don't have to worry about because there's so many companies building those tools.
Yeah.
And they're not expensive to deploy. Okay, so what we will benefit from as a result, our clients will benefit from, is that all of that power unleashed for us to help build better applications.
Yeah.
That's the exciting part. And all the benefit passes on ultimately to the clients. Quality of software that we're going to build, how easy it is for us to build the products that they're going to need. And that's going to take us to agentic AI and AI agents as well, where, again, that we could talk about a bit later. But certainly we are moving very fast. The speed at which We are going from, the iterations of AI itself is breathtaking.
Yeah. Yep.
It's hard to keep up
Absolutely.
with it. But I also feel like that after 28 years building NETSOL, I've become even more passionate and motivated and excited on where this journey is going to take us. It's just, for me, is the road is wide open for us to become market leaders, because access is very democratized, right? It's very available to everybody can do this. So, but we have a huge advantage. We understand our space. We understand our domain intimately.
Yeah.
And so we can utilize these technologies, better than any startup can, because they would not have the history or the background or the experience of what we do as a company.
Yeah. We mentioned AI agents, and obviously that's a big trend within the market. How do you see that impacting, the global tech landscape? And then what specifically about NETSOL? Like, how will that impact NETSOL?
Let's level set just quickly on what agents are.
Sure.
Right? Because, of course, you're hearing this a lot. Everyone has maybe different interpretations of it. Ultimately, what is an agent? An agent can scrape data, they can interpret data, they can reason against that data, and then they can produce an action or a set of actions against that data. So it is, historically, we've had software that humans have driven, and what agents allow you to do is now software that other software is going to drive. So you're seeing agents as potentially leveraging or replacing some maybe rote tasks that you would do on pieces of software before, that you can now have agents actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately, what I don't know how well the community that we work with, our client community, how well they have grasped the concept of an agent. And I think if I talk as a layperson, I'd tell my clients, it's like, imagine an agent is a human resource that you're hiring. So you hire a human resource. What do you do with them? The first thing you do is put them on a training curve. They have to get used to what they're going to do as a job, and they have to learn how to use the systems. They have to learn the business. They have to learn customer relations and all of those things that you do in a company as a finance company. So the best way when I talk to my clients, is to tell them, look, well, all you're doing is really hiring a worker or a human resource that can do the job of like 20, and it's 24/7. It never takes holidays, and never gets sick. And and don't have to give them bonuses. So literally, what you're doing is that you are deploying these agents into your organization that are going to do the job of X number of employees, and that is 1x to 100x. That comes with training. Okay, so on day one, an agent could be just as useful as a human, no more maybe, because it hasn't been trained yet. So it's no different to what you generate out of a Gen AI bot, right? As you would get from an agent until you do the training with the right data sets.
Yeah.
Okay. So the key to the whole thing is that what is the data set you're going to train them on? Because when they come in fresh, I mean, all they do is some very basic tasks that they can do really well, but they will not learn the nuances of the business until they get trained by the company on the relevant data. And for that, we don't always need LLMs. We will need SLMs, the small language models. And these small language models are very much industry specific. So because the stuff you get out of Claude and Anthropic or Llama and OpenAI, that's very generic. I mean, as Faizaan was saying, comes through a lot of web crawling and just getting the data in, and it's just massive amounts of data, out of which they obviously, through data science and training, they get the relevant answer to your question. But the point is that, like healthcare and education and sports, entertainment, asset and auto finance is a very specific domain, and it's got its own intricacies and so on. So an agent can come in but you need to help the clients. This is where we come in
Yeah.
on how to train that agent to be more productive. So you can do the job of one human, but if you want him to do the job of 20, you need to train them
Sure.
to be efficient. And that training comes from very specific language models. And those language models are not out there. There aren't any very specific. I mean, obviously, there is news about healthcare SLMs coming out, and there'll be legal, like lawyers will probably build an SLM for the legal industry. And that is now already the wave, by the way, because these bigger LLMs are going to build more industry specific SLMs as well. So we, as one of the leaders in our industry, can actually be one of the first ones who can help our clients with how to use the data they have. Some companies are 20, 30, 40 years old, and they have a lot of data.
Yeah.
So how we unleash our agents on that data and train them is going to give them the biggest return on their investment.
That's great. Data is obviously a central theme of your answer, and I'm curious if you can elaborate a little bit more around how NETSOL is managing its data, right? From a compliance and legal respect. Can you add a little bit of color around how we're?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question because ultimately, 99% of the questions when you get down to it comes, where does the data come from? Well, you had to look at data engineering differently than maybe we've had to look at it historically. So, you've always had sort of traditional software engineering, but data engineering is as important as a structure and set of capabilities as
Sure.
software development.
Yeah.
So we have built up a data engineering team that sits in parallel with our software development team. And they're basically working on scrubbing data, labeling data, getting access to data, making sure we're meeting all regulatory requirements, whether it comes to California Consumer Protection Acts or GDPR, to make sure that we're, from a regulatory standpoint, training on data we're allowed to train on. These LLMs need as much as data as possible. So you need to also train on synthetic data. So you need to also be able to create data that is that would be simulative of different asset finance processes, and you got to trade on anonymized data as well. So by really elevating that data engineering function within the organization, we treat it just as importantly as new feature development to build out any of these capabilities.
I think this is actually a question which will drive the future, of AI, whether AI continues to be a very effective, positive transformation, both in business and consumer lives, as opposed to, the data not being used correctly. And it's not only just a regulatory part or compliance part, it's actually about the positive use of that data.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the use cases are infinite with
Sure.
what you can do with that data. So there's a lot of responsibilities on companies like NETSOL and other peers and other competitors and in other verticals as well, that we do get access to data. Okay, so the thing is that we have to respect and comply with what are the rules around that data. So we never use client data or consumer data, which is non-anonymized. So is data that's anonymized, and that's data that it's clean, and it's data that follows all the GDPR compliance. So we have to be super careful that we apply the data in such a way that we get what we want to get to train our models, but at the same time respect where the data has come from. And by the way, you can have one-to-one agreements with clients who can allow you access to data that is non-anonymized, right? So so we can play both ways, but also always with the client's consent. that what is it that we can do with that data. So at the moment, how do we train our models? Is basically anonymized data, right?
Yep.
It's not data that is in any way exposes anything about the client's, if you like, information and so on. And that is just should be the general industry practice. The other part of compliance and regulation is that, the data has to be for the good of humanity. I need to go one level higher. That any company which is connected with the consumer, or a company which is in between connected to a consumer, you can get access to the data. So you have to be a responsible citizen, responsible business to how you manage that data, because a lot of times even the guardrails, are not enough.
Sure.
If you want to dance around those guardrails.
Yeah.
So it's up to individual company responsibilities on how to use that data effectively.
Yeah, you mentioned one-to-one data training. That's really important because I think, a client's data footprint can be pretty significant. You don't need to train one client's data with another client's data. I mean, you look at, some of our customers, they have millions of events that happen on a daily basis. They run millions of automotive contracts in their system, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So just their data footprint within the bounds of their data ecosystem is plenty enough to train up these LLMs and these agents to be smart enough to execute against the use cases we have. So, we don't need to, in any sense, sort of mesh data footprints together of different customers. We can focus on a single customer and just within that ecosystem be able to train.
Great. I know there's an enormous product roadmap for AI enhancements for our products, but maybe we could focus quickly on some of the recent enhancements that have been added. Do you want to provide a little bit of context around some of those?
Well, let me step back for
Sure.
just a second on that. Just, what internally, the way we've sort of looked at this problem, we always operate from first principles. We get a blank sheet of paper and look at, okay, given the technologies out there, what does it really mean for our customers? So what we've done is we've really looked at, when we talk about AI first, what does an AI first asset finance company look like?
Mm-hmm.
In the world of agents as well. And ultimately where we got to is that many rote tasks that happen to an asset finance company where there's a lot of operational expense, headcount expense around, many of those rote tasks should be able to be automated through agents and multi-agent systems on there. So what that will mean is that many of these roles, whether it's credit underwriters, analysts, customer service, you can go down, you can go role by role. They're going to have 10x, 100x more leverage to be able to process documents, process workflows in a lot quicker capacity with these agents running. And as Naeem mentioned, they don't need bathroom breaks. They can run 24/7. Our big task is to make sure they're optimized. So, back to what we were talking about with frontier models, these frontier models are like having a PhD ultimate brain, and you don't need that level of compute or those level of LLMs when you're talking about some of these narrow use cases. You need to really optimize the costs and make sure these SLMs are being used for the right road tasks. So we've looked at basically asset finance companies, and what our message is that there's going to be a huge level of automation that you are capable to do with agents, and it should really streamline how much resource you need, how much human resource you need, and you should be able to augment with agents specifically.
Yeah, very much so. So when we go into an organization, literally it's looking at the entire value chain of their operation end to end. And so sometimes the customers and the client will actually tell us where their pain points are. For example, let's say there's a space in debt collection where there's a lot of turnover, people come in and going. Because that's the most stressful job in a company, is being collecting debt.
Mm-hmm.
And as a finance company, that is a very important function of the business, right?
Yeah, sure.
So a lot of these companies are outsourcing, but some of them still keep a part of it in-house. And those are the people who go under the most stress because you're literally chasing people who are not able to pay their bills on time, and they are in danger of losing an asset because they're behind. So that is where there's a lot of turnover of people coming and going, and then you have to train them again,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a learning curve, and so on. So they could say to us, well, this is for us is the biggest pain point. What can you do here through agents? Now, as we already know, customer service and call centers are already been on this robotic, trend for years now. This is not new. That when you call a call center, the first time you get answered by is, a chatbot or a piece of software. But with agents, you go much further than that, because now with voice replication and the sound and the way you can
Yeah.
use these agents, it's very human-like, and they could build some empathy in how they deal with a client. It doesn't have to be so robotic. There's emotional intelligence involved in there as well, as much as artificial intelligence. You need to throw in some of that, and you can train these agents in the emotional quotient, right? So I think one of the areas where our clients are probably asking more and more questions on how do we make that part of the business where we don't have turnover, people come in and going. So instead of having 50 people in there, can we live with half and then the rest covered by agents who are probably more effective, and they keep learning more and more from each response they get from a customer and a consumer. They train on that and how to handle it better the next time. That's the beauty of it. They don't forget because that's data is all captured, and we can further train each agent on this. So we look at this entire value chain, and from customer to customer, they can say, this is for me the highest impact area. Prove to us that you can actually transform this in a meaningful way, tangible way, and I see an ROI. Yeah, that's where we can come in, give them some guidance, consultancy, and some thought leadership on where the industry trends are and what is the best way of implementing something which is not as human as it has been in the past, and so the end result has to be measurable. With agents, it's not the way the financial model of an agent of how we put them out there is different to how we sell software. It's not SaaS. It's slightly different. And that's another topic we can talk about maybe later or another podcast. But it's the going trend at the moment is that, agents as a service is going to be the key on how you go and provide these agents to your clients.
Sure.
So as Naeem mentioned, ultimately voice is probably the native user experience for a lot of these agentic models. And they've really crossed, just recently, there have been new innovations that have come out that have truly crossed the uncanny valley of voice. If you've ever seen the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix, where he falls in love with an AI played by Scarlett Johansson, we are there now. We're there now. Some of these voice models you listen to, and honestly, you can have a better conversation with them than most human beings. So we're there now. And now imagine what that means for customer service. Now you have these voice models that are infinitely available, infinitely patient, infinitely informed. And not only can they have a real conversation with you, but by using agentic systems, they can actually action, and based on business rules that are defined, based on their training that's defined, they can actually action certain things for you, certain capabilities in the system for you. And that's with a human only validating at the end of that now, instead of having to manage that whole process. So, we've looked at some of these customer service calls can cost a company $10 to service each customer service. Now, to be able to do that through agentic voice, the cost dropped dramatically, and they can really more focus on how can we upsell customers now. So instead of it being all about a fire drill, how can we actually use this opportunity to connect with the customer and potentially offer them, offer the company new revenue opportunities. But to your question on sort of new features coming down the pipeline, there's a lot, and we can share some of it. So So we have intelligent document processing that is coming soon to a number of our customers. What does that capability do? Essentially, if you look at some of the, again, rote tasks that happen in our, say, legacy systems, document processing can be strenuous. I mean, you can take an hour per document to get through the system. Now, with the use of agentic use cases, you can have documents processed literally within minutes. So how much more productivity does that provide folks that are working on the document processing side? A lot more. Certainly, they can do a lot more business in that way. Another piece that, of course, we would say it's a necessary piece, but it's not the key innovation. Is what we're doing on intelligent bots. So we have a help desk chatbot that you can reference all of our documentation and just start having a conversation to basically go through our help desk documentation, ask any questions you have to be able to do a use case pretty quickly, do a result pretty quickly. But I would say that, compared to all the work we're doing on the agentic side, the chatbot side of things is the most basic piece that you just absolutely have to have. The exciting piece is going to be all the work that we're doing on the agentic side to actually action some of these systems.
So I had one that I wanted to ask you guys just personally. How can we, or you, what would you like to do to apply AI, for the betterment of society? Any thoughts on that?
This is outside of the business.
Outside of the business.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I think the way I see social media, all the issues around social media for young people, I see how that has impacted people, and young people especially. When I don't want to name any of the platforms, but generally I've seen younger people literally get so deeply involved in their social media presence they lose touch with reality. So what I want is that social media and some of these platforms take more responsibility and introduce these AI tools that can pick up some of these early signs of people who are abusing the media channels of connection and the trolling part. And there's been a lot of incidents of suicides and with people being shamed on social media. I'm not talking about teenagers, anybody from 13 years upward, even younger. Sometime, just because they need to be seen, to be visible on social media because all their friends are. I think one of the things that I want to see is that all of these big companies take more responsibility in terms of how they moderate content. And I think recently I learned something very disturbing, how Facebook has stopped some of the moderation under pressure, as we know. And I think that is going to hurt, generally the younger population. And secondly, I think we need to more effectively apply AI to deal with some of the social unrest, and we have to find ways to make sure people who cannot upskill themselves in the latest trends are also accommodated in society to stay relevant. For younger people who cannot adapt as fast, and if they are at risk of losing their jobs, I think there should be some responsibility on all companies, major companies, to find ways to keep those people relevant, whether it's a government initiative where they help companies to do some programs where the people are not left out of society at a younger age. I think if you're getting close 60s and higher, I guess at some point you're retiring anyway. But I'm talking about younger people. I think a lot of people will find themselves out of work. And there should be some initiative now, because this wave is not stopping. This is going to go exponential. And the next year, I read the CEO of Anthropic was on a podcast saying that he believes next year AI will be superior to human intelligence. Okay, that's not far away, a year away.
We're entering an age of abundance, and a lot of the AI conversation has centered around safety, which is, don't get me wrong, very important. However, we should be centering the conversation around the unlock and abundance that is about to be upon us. Effectively, AI or any technological diffusion, whether it's electricity or AI now, ultimately helps drop the cost of goods and services to trend towards zero, right? So, I mean, look at what AI tools allow us to do today. I mean, you have infinite leverage again on knowledge workers being able to execute for you. I mean, we talk about it with content development. How much effort would it take to actually produce a piece of content, whether it's a piece of writing, whether it's a graphic design piece there? And what can you do within seconds now using some of these AI tools? So now everybody who has access to these AI tools has this level of abundance that just did not exist for you, this access to knowledge work that did not exist for you unless you had a big team before. So it's going to play out in all different realms. You know, NETSOL is very committed to CSR. We educate hundreds of children in places like Pakistan, and I'll give you an example there. You know, we invest in textbooks, we invest in learning content. Well, now we've started a program where we're giving access to ChatGPT, because right there, for literally $20 a month, a student has access to a tutor that can teach them the sum of the world's knowledge in whatever capacity they can interpret it, in whatever language they want to have it interpreted in, just instantly available for you. So it's going to unlock a huge amount of abundance for us in many different realms and fields, and it should really, hopefully, diffuse down to hopefully to some of the lowest economic areas in the world as well, just like we've seen smartphones as well.
Yep.
Smartphones, now most people have smartphones, whatever their economic station is. As long as you have access to a smartphone, you should be able to have access to these models as well. So, of course, the safety discussion is important, and we need to make sure that we truly understand what these LLMs are doing. And we never release these LLMs out in the wild without sort of simulating what they do in certain environments. That's very important. But I think that the conversation has to start first from an optimistic standpoint about where the future is leading us to, and then what we need to do. And we should be careful about regulation too early before we really understand what's going on here. You know, I remember in 2000, in like the 2007, 2008 era, people used to call themselves social media experts.
Sure.
And I always found it funny because social media was just a few years phenomenon, really, at that point. So it's hard to be an expert of something that's moving so rapidly and changing so quickly. I think you're seeing the same thing play out today. You know, Naeem will be the first one to say it. We wouldn't call ourselves AI experts. We'll call ourselves AI students, learners.
Sure.
Because that's anyone who calls themselves an expert. I mean, you can talk to the CEOs of OpenAI or Anthropic. They wouldn't call themselves experts as well. We are all learning together. Things are evolving very rapidly. And it's very important to have that sort of growth mindset to be curious about these innovations and be open to where this could lead to.
Amazing. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Last question for you guys. Any closing thoughts, any closing remarks on the conversation today?
You go, then I'll follow.
Yeah, well, it's been great. I mean, we've been wanting to talk about what we've been doing in AI for a while. There's going to be a lot more that we plan on sharing, and we're just really excited about where things are going. I think in our space, in the asset finance world, what we're hearing from a lot of customers is they're looking for the thought leadership right now. They understand AI is very important. They see it all around them, but they're looking for guidance. And you know, we're here. We're students with you, so we're learning together, and we're happy to share where this vision is, what we're doing, and you know, look forward to working with customers to help define the roadmaps as we move forward.
Yeah. I think the message I would give to our client community is that, you know, we are on this journey together. And the changes that we're going to see already, we are seeing already, and the changes that are forthcoming sometimes can be, mind-boggling. And so the thing to do is to educate oneself. And when I entered the AI era for myself as a student, it was all self-taught. So, because ultimately, if you come from an engineering background, which I came from before we started NETSOL, your curiosity to learn should never go away.
Sure.
So I actually became a student of AI about a year and a half ago, and I followed everything that was happening in the industry. Because I cannot benefit my colleagues and my clients unless I stay at least a step ahead
Yeah.
of what is changing. So when we go and provide some thought leadership and guidance to our clients, we like to think that we know what's going on. We cannot always predict what's going to happen in the future, but we can simply sketch a picture of where is AI today. And we also give them a very precise guidance, literally step by step, on what they should be doing. I mean, we actually got that much knowledge and training and education internally in the company. And at the moment, I lead the AI initiative for the company, and I lead it from the front, that when we are in front of the clients, that we actually give them the comfort and the safety net that, working together, we collaborating together, you're not going to get left behind. But the thing that you have to do is, we cannot dance around this. You have to do something. You have to implement programs and trainings and educations that is going to get you AI ready. And if you don't start now, then it can be too late, because your competitors are not sleeping. They are actively, transforming themselves for the AI era. There is so much awareness now, even though there's not enough education. Yeah, but there's awareness of this is happening.
Sure.
Everybody knows this is real. And I think out of sometimes, being in a comfort zone, sometimes you're saying, okay, let's wait and see how this pans out. I think in this situation, we don't have that option. And that I say it with objectivity and sincerity to all of my clients. In this trend, when we were waiting for the cloud to be real, on-prem or on cloud, when we thought, DevOps is a real thing or not, when we thought maybe we can keep developing software sequentially, we thought that all of those things that we waited, and that didn't break your business down. That was not a business killer. But doing nothing in the AI era is potentially a business killer.
Yeah.
That's the message I want to give to anybody listening to this podcast. And how you take that forward as a message is a lot on up to you. And I think first thing starts with educate yourself. Become a student of AI. Don't just listen to a so-called expert from Big Five consultancy. Have some relevance to what they're saying, so that people, when they even give you thought leadership, you can relate to it. It's not total rocket science to you. So I think it's a lot of, it's incumbent on us, first of all, to be ready for it, and accept the change is happening. This is not going away. It is definitely not going away. But when I hear a company like Oracle or TSMC is going to invest $100 billion, or Apple is going to put $500 billion in building data centers, I mean, this is real. This is happening.
Yep.
So let's just embrace it. There's no point in fighting it. Embrace it, and then we build something that is going to keep the company future-proof, relevant, and keep us in business, and we actually benefit. And we can be better companies, we can be better colleagues, better workers. And the end result is going to be positive if we embrace the change.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Naeem. Thank you, Faizaan. This has been a great conversation. Really have appreciated all of your insights into AI and NETSOL's journey. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in today. If you have any more questions or thoughts on NETSOL, please visit netsoltech.com.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.